It was a bright, sunny afternoon by the riverbank. The air was filled with the sound of chirping birds and the gentle rustling of leaves. A curious little baby crawled happily along the soft grass, giggling at butterflies fluttering nearby. But as the baby wandered closer to the river's edge, the ground became wet and sticky. Without knowing the danger, the baby placed a tiny hand into the soft mud. Suddenly, squish, the earth gave way, and the baby slipped right into the muddy patch. The mud was thick and heavy. Each time the baby tried to move, it sank a little deeper. The baby's little arms stretched out, but they could not find anything to grab onto. The more it wriggled, the harder it became to escape. Soon, the baby realized it was stuck. Its tiny face turned worried and tears welled up in its eyes. A loud cry echoed across the quiet forest, carrying a message of fear and helplessness. The baby needed help. Far away, the sound of crying reached the ears of some watchful creatures. But the baby didn't know that yet. The baby's cries floated through the forest like an alarm bell. High above, in the tall trees, a pair of bright little birds tilted their heads. Their sharp ears caught the sound of distress. Curious, they flew down from branch to branch, fluttering their wings until they spotted the scene below. There, near the riverbank, was the baby, half covered in mud, struggling and crying. The birds looked at each other with concern. They knew the baby couldn't escape alone. One of the birds let out a loud, urgent chirp, chirp, chirp. The other joined in, and soon their song turned into a call for help. Their voices echoed through the forest, bouncing from tree to tree. The birds weren't strong enough to pull the baby out, but they were clever and quick. They knew if they made enough noise, someone stronger might come. The baby looked up through teary eyes and saw the colorful little birds circling above. For a brief moment, the baby stopped crying. It seemed the baby understood. Help was on the way. The baby's cries did not vanish into silence. They rose into the warm air, trembling like ripples on water, and traveled through the forest. Every creature nearby paused at the sound, for it was not the usual chatter of animals or the playful laughter of a child. It was a cry of distress. High above the ground, in the leafy tops of the tall trees, two little birds fluttered from branch to branch. They were small, colorful creatures with feathers that shimmered in the sunlight. One had bright red wings tipped with gold, while the other was a soft blue with a white belly. They had been busy building a nest, carrying tiny twigs and bits of grass when the sound reached their sharp ears. The red bird tilted its head. "Chirp," it called softly, listening again. The baby's cry floated upward, louder this time, full of fear. The two birds exchanged quick glances, their beady black eyes wide. Something was wrong, and they knew it. Without hesitation, the blue bird soared from its perch and circled above the trees. Below, the baby was still trapped in the mud, its arms flailing weakly as it cried. The birds could see the little one's face streaked with tears and the way its body sank deeper into the sticky earth. The bluebird let out a sharp, urgent cry. Chirp, chirp, chirp. It was not the sweet, gentle song of morning, but a loud and insistent call for attention. The red bird joined in, adding its own high-pitched notes, and soon the forest was alive with their alarm. Other birds paused to listen. A squirrel froze on a branch, ears twitching at the sound. Even the wind seemed to carry their message farther and farther into the trees. The baby looked up, eyes wide with a mixture of fear and hope, watching the little birds circling above. The birds fluttered lower, perching on branches closer to the ground. They chirped and chirped, hopping from side to side, as if encouraging the baby to hold on a little longer. Their voices rang like tiny bells in the forest, refusing to be ignored. The baby reached a small, muddy hand upward toward them, though it was too far. The sight only made the birds more determined. They weren't strong enough to lift the baby from the mud, not with their small wings and delicate claws, but they were clever. Birds had always been the forest's messengers, and today, their job was to find help. With a final chirp to reassure the baby, the two little birds spread their wings and darted off through the trees. They flew fast, weaving through branches and calling out their alarm again and again. somewhere in the forest. Surely another creature would hear and come to the baby's aid. And indeed, not far away, a pair of curious eyes watched from the treetops. A furry face peeked through the leaves, ears twitching at the sound of the birds' calls. Help was closer than the baby realized. The birds' cries carried far through the forest, ringing like little bells of urgency. Their sharp calls bounced from tree to tree, and soon, in the thick canopy above, another creature stirred. A monkey, curious and playful by nature, paused in the middle of swinging from vine to vine. Its ears twitched. The monkey tilted its head, listening closely. That was no ordinary sound. Birds did not cry out like that unless something was truly wrong. With a sudden leap, the monkey bounded across the branches, following the trail of frantic chirps. The leaves rustled with each movement, and soon the monkey came to a halt, peering down from a tall branch. There, below, was a sight that made the monkey's eyes widen. A tiny baby sat trapped in a pool of mud near the riverbank, struggling and crying. The little birds fluttered in circles above the child, their voices filled with alarm. The monkey's playful grin faded into concern. Quick as lightning, the monkey swung down the branches, tail curling around vines for balance. It landed gracefully on the ground not far from the baby. The child spotted the newcomer and let out another cry, reaching its muddy little hands toward the monkey as though begging for help. The monkey's heart softened. It scampered closer, chattering softly as if to say, "Don't worry, little one, I'm here." But as the monkey stepped onto the edge of the mud, it felt the ground squish beneath its hands. The monkey leapt back quickly. The mud was dangerous, even for nimble feet like its own. If it went in too far, it too might get stuck. Thinking quickly, the monkey scanned the ground. Nearby lay a long, sturdy stick that had fallen from a tree. The monkey picked it up, testing its weight. Then it carried the stick to the edge of the muddy patch and stretched it out toward the baby. "Hold on." The monkey seemed to chatter as it pushed the stick closer. The baby reached out eagerly, little fingers brushing against the branch. But the mud clung so tightly to the baby's arms and legs that even with the stick, the child could not pull free. The monkey pulled, tugging gently, but the mud sucked the baby back each time. The monkey paused, panting softly, shook its head, realizing the truth. This was not a rescue it could do alone. The mud was stronger than one set of hands, or paws. The monkey needed more help, someone bigger, stronger, someone who could reach the baby without sinking. Looking up at the birds, the monkey chattered loudly as if giving them instructions. "Fly! Call more friends, we need stronger help." The birds chirped in agreement and took off again, their wings beating quickly as they darted deeper into the forest. The monkey stayed behind, sitting by the edge of the mud. It held the stick in its hands, stretching it close to the baby whenever the child reached forward. The monkey's eyes, usually full of mischief, now glowed with determination. It would not leave the baby alone. And just as the baby began to tire, a heavy sound echoed. In the distance, thump, thump, thump. Something large was moving through the forest, answering the call. The forest grew quiet for a moment, as if holding its breath. The baby whimpered softly, its little arms still reaching for the monkey's stick. The monkey stayed close, chattering. Words of comfort, though it knew its strength alone wasn't enough. Then came the sound. Thump, thump, thump. Heavy footsteps shook the ground. Leaves rustled high above as tree branches swayed. The monkey perked up, eyes wide with hope. The birds swooped down, chirping excitedly, and the baby's cries paused as it too heard the deep, steady sound. Out from between the tall trees stepped a magnificent elephant. Its gray skin shimmered in the sunlight, and its great ears flapped, gently as it moved. The elephant's wise eyes softened the moment they fell upon the scene. A helpless baby sinking in the mud, a monkey struggling to help, and tiny birds circling overhead like messengers of urgency. The elephant let out a deep, rumbling trumpet call. It was not a sound of fear, but one of reassurance, as if to say, "Don't be afraid, I am here now." The monkey leapt up, pointing toward the baby and chattering loudly, explaining all it had seen. The birds fluttered closer, chirping as if repeating the story. The elephant nodded slowly, understanding at once what needed to be done. Carefully, the elephant walked toward the riverbank, each massive step pressed firmly into the earth. But the elephant moved with grace and caution. Its weight could easily sink into the mud if it wasn't careful. When it reached the edge, it stretched out its long, powerful trunk. The baby, still crying softly, looked up at the giant animal. Its tiny hands reached out instinctively. The elephant lowered its trunk gently, curling the tip around the baby's small body with surprising tenderness. The mud resisted at first, sucking and pulling as if it did not want to release its grip. But the elephant was strong, stronger than the pull of the earth. With one steady motion, it lifted the baby upward, free from the sticky trap. The baby squealed, not in fear this time, but in surprise as it dangled safely in the air. The monkey clapped its hands together with joy, jumping up and down, while the birds swooped around in happy circles, singing a cheerful tune. The elephant placed the baby carefully on a patch of soft, dry grass. The mud still clung to the baby's arms and legs, but the child was free. For a moment, the baby sat blinking in the sunlight, then broke into a small giggle. The sound melted away the fear of the forest. The monkey rushed to the baby's side, touching its muddy little hand gently. The birds perched on a low branch nearby, still chirping in celebration. The elephant lifted its trunk high and let out another trumpet, this time proud and happy. The rescue had worked. The baby was safe. And though the mud had tried to trap the little one, the kindness of the forest's animals had proved stronger. The forest seemed to glow with joy as the elephant gently set the baby down on the soft grass. The sticky mud still clung to the little one's arms and legs, but the heavy weight of fear had lifted. The baby wiggled and kicked happily, squealing with delight at being free again. The monkey rushed forward first, landing gracefully on the grass beside the baby. It chattered excitedly, patting the ground as if celebrating the victory. The baby looked at the monkey with wide eyes, then let out a bubbly laugh. It reached out with a tiny muddy hand, and the monkey leaned in, touching its paw gently to the baby's fingers. For a moment, it seemed as though they were shaking hands like old friends. High above, the birds still circled, but now their song was light and cheerful, no longer filled with alarm. They perched on a low branch nearby, their feathers gleaming in the sunlight as they sang a melody of happiness. The baby looked up, clapping its hands together, fascinated by their bright colors and fluttering wings. The elephant stood proudly a few steps away, its large ears flapping slowly. It watched over the little gathering with calm, wise eyes. The giant's trunk swayed gently, as though it were humming a silent lullaby to the baby. From time to time, the elephant blew soft puffs of air from its trunk, making the baby giggle even more. Together, the animals gathered around the child, forming a circle of safety and care. In their own ways, they seemed to promise that no harm would come to the baby as long as they were near. The monkey crouched protectively close. The birds kept their sharp eyes on the sky, and the elephant loomed like a gentle guardian. The baby, now calm and curious once more, explored the grass beneath its fingers. It picked up a leaf, waved it, clumsily, then dropped it with a giggle. Its earlier tears had dried, leaving behind only the sparkle of innocence. Every so often, the baby would glance at the animals, as if knowing they were the reason it was safe. The forest itself seemed to share in the relief. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves, carrying the sweet scent of flowers. The river continued to flow, but now its sound was soothing, like a lullaby. For a moment, everything in the forest was perfectly peaceful. As the sun began to dip lower, the sky casting golden rays across the clearing, the animals lingered near the baby. Though they belonged to the wild, their hearts had united in kindness that day. They had answered a cry for help, and together they had saved a life. The baby yawned softly, rubbing its muddy little eyes. The elephant knelt slightly, offering its wide side as a safe place to lean. The monkey curled nearby, and the birds settled in the branches above, keeping watch. In that moment, the forest was not just a home for animals. It had become a family, one that would always protect the little one. And the baby, though too small to put it into words, felt safe, loved, and surrounded by friends.